37 men who had just been through a horrific war with all the brutality that was endemic to 18th century warfare. Men who had labored and fought and bled and cried over the birth of this nation because they realized that we, the people of the United States of America, had the power within us to recreate something unique, something never seen on this planet before. And they entrusted it to us, ladies and gentlemen, to their children. Whether your forefathers were here when it was signed, or whether they followed the shining light and example that America promised us to all the world to get here, we are all their children. We are all their heirs. They left us that terrible responsibility and that wonderful burden to make sure the shining beacon that has lit the world with hope of freedom continues to light the world, not only for just our children, but for all the world's children and grandchildren. They entrusted us with that responsibility, passing down the sacred flame of the first true freedom this planet had ever seen. An ideal imperfectly reached at the time, but always strive to provide more freedom, more ability to pursue happiness, more possibilities for the generations that follow us. Folks, we must not fail in that trust. And the result of their labors are now in danger. Danger from abroad, surely, but that is the lesser of two dangers. No foreign enemy will ever defeat this nation, but we can destroy ourselves. Excessive debt, a monetary policy that acts as if the printing presses in the treasury are manna from heaven, which I find kind of funny because anything else from heaven they avoid like the plague. An educational system that if a foreign power had inflicted it upon us could be construed as an act of war. And a foreign policy that weakens our position in the world and invites attack by demonstrating an unwillingness to defend ourselves or our borders. But the rot goes deeper than that, ladies and gentlemen. We find ourselves in a nation whose intellectual and political elites decline to defend our culture. Our history is not told. Our founders have almost faded from the popular cultural consciousness. And if they are mentioned, instead of the heroes and geniuses, they are portrayed as often as not as reactionary, bigoted white men who somehow managed to stumble upon this Constitution through all their faults. Then they go on to denigrate and ridicule some of those God-given and founder-affirmed rights. According to what some would have you believe, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you are a great danger to yourself and your neighbors, and the government should probably disarm you. The right to keep and bear arms has much more to do with the fact that the regimes that want to be tyrannical always prefer having an unarmed populace to be tyrannical over. Not because we were hunting for food when the document was written. That is a shallow and fatuous argument. It would assume that the Founding Fathers had absolutely no foresight. That's a stupid argument on the very face of it. Some they denigrate, others they twist. Our founders enumerated one of our freedoms, our God-given freedoms, as freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. Now the government tries to expunge religion, or at least the religion of our founding, our heritage, and our historical tradition from the public record and discourse. To do this, they twist and revise history to suit them. But the truth is hard to kill, and those that try usually find that the effort turns around and bites them on, well, in a place I'm not going to say is a polite Southern boy in mixed company. And worst of all, they create a huge overarching bureaucracy, a federal machinery that with the full, crushing, terrifying weight of its stolen power seeks to circumvent the Constitution, and it appears even Congress itself. Now that Congress has semi-declined to take up climate change legislation, the EPA has announced that it will regulate CO2, the stuff we breathe out every time we take a breath. You guys pay your exhalation tax today? We are faced with a creeping, insidious kraken of federal government that seeks to regulate our health, our wealth, and even our very breath. 6 of those 37 men, Robert Marsh, Benjamin Franklin, George Clymer, and James Wilson from Pennsylvania, George Reed from Delaware, Robert Sherman from Connecticut, have been in that same room, in that same place, 11 years before, when the nation had been birthed on July 4, 1776, and had signed the Declaration of Independence. They and the 50 other signers of the Declaration had taken a solemn oath 11 years before, an oath that bound them, bone and blood, heart and soul, to the new nation and the idea of human freedom it represented. An oath that every one of them knew when they signed it were not just meaningless words. The specified means for treason, for punishment against the crown, were brutal, painful, and slowly fatal. Yet they stood bravely, unbowed, and defied the most powerful empire on earth to give birth to the idea of freedom, an idea that has struggled and grown and strived with each generation of Americans to perfect that freedom, sometimes with thunder and lightning and blood, but most of the time with words and ideas in the ballot box. Now the mantle of responsibility and duty falls upon us. Can we fail them? Can we fail those men who proudly and defiantly signed their names to that document? One of them so defiantly that his name became a synonym for a signature? I ask again, can we fail them? Are we willing to let that fragile, unique flame of freedom die? Those men signed under this inscription, and for the support of this declaration, with a full reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Can we forsake such bravery? We are their heirs, every one of us, whether our forefathers were here when the document was signed or whether they came later through toil, trouble, pain, and injustice. They left this trust to us. Can we allow, through our lethargy and our apathy, for their legacy to be forsworn? Or shall we make, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, our own sacred oaths? To save liberty, will we take our own pledges of our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. And all this today is due to Eric. We really appreciate everybody coming. And you know, Eric talked about special dates. There's a couple of dates that people don't really pay much attention to, but they're very significant. I wrote them down on my hand. Now, Sarah Palin did not invent that. I've been doing that for years, but I sort of like that Sarah Palin does that. That shows you the lady knows how to deal with things. But December 16th, 1773, the first Tea Party in Boston Harbor. April 19th, 1775. What was that? What was it? Come on. Shots fired at Lexington and Concord. Those were the shots heard. Those were the shots heard around the world. So it's very important we remember our history. I want to remind you that we've got some opportunities over here that I'm pointing at. Florence Tea Party's got some stuff that they are promoting. The Hartsville Tea Party's got shirts and all, the Constitutions and Declaration of Independence. Fair tax people are here. And we really appreciate everybody doing what they've been doing. Now I want to note something. We've had all the candidates for Attorney General and several other offices. Most or all of them have made it. And we're fixing to introduce Nikki Haley. She is the only Republican candidate that has made it to Hartsville. And she had to fly to get here. So she wants to be here, and she wants to be here with us. But first, I want to introduce Representative Philip Lowe, He's from District 60, representing